All our lives, we spend our time convincing ourselves that our home is the best place for us, and that there's not another place out there that could be a home. And ultimately, we fell for a hook, line, and sinker until 2.5 years ago, when we moved to the island of Madeira. Bom dia! Have you ever dreamed of traveling the world, moving abroad, but you just aren't quite sure how to do it? Well, you found the right channel. With people constantly looking for ways to start that new adventure, but just not quite knowing how to do it, we want to show everyone that you don't have to be a millionaire. So come along, let's go. It'll be fun. Vai ser divertido. Today, we are walking Gorete do Lorano. It's a 10-kilometer hike that goes from Mexico to Porto de Cruz. The start of the hike is alongside Oliveira, up above Mexico. And so all along it, you're looking back towards Mexico behind you, all the way down to the ocean. As you come around the bend, you eventually cross the ridge over to the ocean side as you approach Porto de Cruz. And over there, you're on a cliffside with an excellent view down to the ocean, walking on just a standard walking path, until eventually you descend down into this coastal town. It's an excellent little town with a rum factory and a good restaurant, although it's so busy nowadays. We haven't been in it forever. And we've walked this trail many times, and we love it. But to be honest, for a lot of new people, this trail is probably a little bit scary. It takes some courage to walk up so high with the cliff face as you get closer into Porto de Cruz, especially if you have a fear of heights. So I wanted to pose this question. How much are you willing to challenge your fears for that new adventure that you want to make? Tell us in the comments. When we first started this whole adventure, we came to find that we had so many more fears than we could have imagined at the start. Some of them we talked about with friends and family in order to gain some confidence that everything would be all right. Others, we kept silent because, to be honest, we were just hoping that when we took our leap, we would land on our feet and everything would be fine. We had to trust in ourselves that we were truly deserving of this whole adventure, that we didn't need to be any more than we were. We didn't need to be rich, we didn't need to be famous, and everything would work out, even in spite of those things that we were lacking. So while we talk about our fears, hopefully you can connect with some of them and gain some of that confidence, some of that courage that you need to take your own journeys. We were worried that the housing was going to be just terribly different. We thought it was going to potentially cut into our quality of life. Coming from Illinois, we were used to the things that we had in Illinois. Everyone's used to what they know. The houses here are a lot more comfortable than we actually were expecting. It's what we are accustomed to, really. They're well built and comfortable to live in. They all have water heaters and electricity. The temperatures tend to range between 60 and 80 degrees, so really the fact that most places don't come with a heating and an air system isn't that bad. And we now live in a place where we have our own aircon and heating, so it's just like it's back home again. And of course, we cannot get over the fact that they have no mosquitoes here. I mean, they do, but they barely come in. I mean, without a screen on our door, without a screen on our window, we still see less mosquitoes in our house than we did in Illinois with the screens up. We thought that making friends was going to be a terribly difficult thing. After all, we knew we were leaving the States, we knew we were leaving home, and we were leaving all of our friends behind. We didn't know anyone where we were going. All of our plans involved moving to Europe one way or another. And we just weren't quite sure how it was going to work out. Who are we going to meet? Who are we going to know? Who are we going to spend our times with? And the locals, at least here, aren't standoffish. So we find that just running into a cafe in the morning, catching people as they're off to go to work, or they're coming back in the evenings, or it's just older people who are spending their day relaxing and having a cup of coffee. People are friendly and they love to hear stories and they love to share their own. So long as you allow yourself to get out there and just talk to people, you'll absolutely make friends anywhere. Another thing, as stupid as this sounds, was we knew that of course this is not an issue, it never could be an issue, but we were terrified all the same. What were we gonna do about drinking water? Was the water drinkable? And in our case, we were going to a first world country, we were going to Portugal. We knew the water was absolutely fine. There was no way there could be an issue. And ultimately, yeah, maybe there's some differences, like the US has different regulations on the fluoride amount in the water, and so it might taste different because there's just different regulations on that. But that's not a big deal. Now, maybe you find yourself going to a place where the water is a question. But you're still fine at the end of the day. My dad likes drinking bottled water to begin with. So even though we have perfectly drinkable water here, he drinks from bottled water all the time. And if you are going to a place where you can't drink just the tap water, bottled water will be available and it will be drinkable and it will be just like you remember. My parents worried about how we were going to get a visa to come to a European country. After all, we were just regular folk. We didn't have all that money to buy a golden visa. And visas are hard to get, right? So we sat down on our screened-in porch and we worked it out. We ran through each country we were interested in, got a full list of all the visas, which ones were even applicable for us, and then worked on figuring out just how hard getting a visa would be for us, for each country on our list. And ultimately, things worked out for my parents as they were able to come on D7s or retirement visas. But even still, for me, there was a lot of fear because I had to come on this reunification visa. And at the time, coming to Portugal, reunification visas required that your parents were already settled with their residence card before you could actually apply. This made things odd for me because I had to come here on a travel visa and just sit around and then suddenly throw everything in the bucket and get my reunification visa settled as fast as possible because I was already in the country and I only had a 3-month travel visa. So things were weird. Ultimately, everything worked out and the visas were fine. I got my residence card just like them and we're living here comfortably. But it is a big question mark. How are you going to get those visas settled? And the thing is, some places are easier than others. Like some places you have to have a property that you own or are renting on in the place that you're going to be moving to before you're allowed to apply for the visa. In others, you can just show up in the country and get the visa after you've already arrived, and that's the expected outcome. And you can just throw things caution to the wind and get the visa just as you go. But we found that working through everything is always doable. There is some visa out there that is perfect fit for you, and it will happen. Now, I had a few worries of my own, to be honest. I was worried about being able to see my friends back in the States, how I was going to go about that. But you know, to be honest, I knew it was going to be fine. Nowadays, with WhatsApp, Discord, just phone lines in general, there are so many ways to keep in touch with people that you can do any type of call or any type of communication you could possibly want at any point in time. So it's perfectly fine. And on top of that, me living over here, heck, maybe now I have an excuse to invite people over. Alongside that, I was actually more worried, what was I going to do about internet? Because I knew I was going to need good internet. It wasn't something I could possibly shirk on. I was really worried that it was going to be spotty, that maybe the providers were going to be bad and they were going to make the service cut in and out, or there was just going to be bad connection in general. And while all of these are valid concerns, in most places nowadays, internet is good. A lot of places around the world also have like fiber optics, that sort of thing. I mean, we didn't have that in where we lived in the States before we came. So if these are things that you're going to be needing, though, I would look into it. Because there are some places like the Philippines, for example, where good internet is not even remotely a guarantee. Last but not least, we had this terrible fear. What were we going to do with our pets? We didn't want to leave them behind, but how were we supposed to bring them with us leaving the country? This is just something we'd never tackled before, and anyone with pets, this is probably right at the top of your list for something that you're afraid of. And I'm just gonna go outright and say it. I can't really go over the whole thing right here, right now. So I'll send you over to a video of ours where we talked about bringing our pets over. And alongside that, go to our website and download our pet checklist to help yourself bring your pets with you when you go on this trip. It's a big ordeal, but it will go smoothly, and there's so many people that are willing to help you along the way. It will be fine. At the end of the day, I just kind of wanted to say, fears are just that. They're fears. They don't necessarily come from a place of founded truths. A lot of them are just inklings and rumors that are stuck on our minds, and they aren't true when you really get down to it. Just keep this in mind as you go through your own adventure. The mist will clear, and you will have an absolutely wonderful time, so long as you just allow yourself to do so. Enjoy this journey. It'll be fun.